Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sunset TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. In what comes as a massive setback for the country, World Football Governing Body FIFA has suspended the All India Football Federation for what it calls undue influence from third parties. The suspension means India will not be able to host the Under-17 Women's World Cup, which was scheduled to be held from 11th to 30th of October. Now, this is the first time the All India Football Federation has been banned by FIFA in its 85-year history, with the apex body saying there have been flagrant violations of the FIFA statutes. The letter from FIFA says the suspension will be lifted once an order to set up a committee of administrators to assume the powers of the AIFF Executive Committee has been repealed and the AIFF administration regains full control of the daily affairs of the body. In Perspective today, we'll try and understand from experts what the consequences of this ban could be for Indian football, what measures need to be taken for this ban to be revoked, and also to prevent further such embarrassments. Joining me are three panelists on the program today, so let me begin the program by first introducing them to you. With me in the studio is Mr. Anadi Barua, his former football player and coach. Mr. Barua, thank you for your time. Welcome to Sunset TV. And joining us virtually are two distinguished panelists as well, Mr. Rakesh Rao, senior sports journalist, and Mr. Kapil Sankla, his advocate, Supreme Court. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Welcome to Perspective on Sunset TV. Mr. Rao, allow me to begin the program today with you. Help us and our viewers understand what led to the FIFA banning India from all sporting events globally. And because it's the first time in the 85-year history of AIFF that such a kind of ban has come, also, explain to our viewers what FIFA means when it says undue influence from third parties.
Well, it's a long story which shouldn't have started in the first place, actually. But then, as things stand, we know that that the AIFF elections were due in December 2020. And that was also the third term that had ended for the president, Mr. Praful Patel. For reasons best known to the AIFF, they didn't hold the elections on time. They took another 1.5 years. Till such time, no effort was also made to actually conduct the election. So a person who's already completed his term, he had stretched it by another 1.5 years. So that means 12 years is the maximum which you have as an office bearer as per the sports code. He stretched it to already 13.5 with no elections, no election in sight. So finally, it was in May, in May 2022, 18th of May to be precise, the Supreme Court removed Praful Patel as the president in violation of the sports code, saying that you've exceeded your term, and the AIFF should hold elections. And in the interim, what they decided was to install a 3-member committee of administrators. Now, this committee of administrators had to take over. Now, this is what the FIFA means, when it says an interference or the involvement of a third party. Now, third party here is pretty much the COA, which any international sports body, the way it looks at its affiliates, which are the national sports federations or the national Olympic committees, so to speak, or the national Olympic associations, they deal with them directly. And when they say that one of our affiliates is not autonomous by the very by the very definition of it, that's when they step in. Now, a lot happened in between from 18th of May till date. A lot of promises were made. There was a committee from FIFA and the Asian Football Confederation. They came here and they were also assured by the COA. Then there was something to do with the Electoral College, because we are all talking about the impending elections. So the Electoral College had 72 members, which was 50%. I mean, it was actually comprising of the the footballers, and the other 50% were that of the office bearers. So the state associations objected to it. COA then again had its, it shifted its stand. FIFA thought enough was enough. They stepped in, and this morning they issued an order, this particular decision was taken 2 days ago. It was made public today.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Barua, the timeline of events that should not have happened, that have caused this global embarrassment, Nevertheless, the ones who are going to be at the receiving end are the players. What are the consequences that you see? And particularly because, you've been the coach of the women's football team. How do you see this impacting the women's team just 2 months ahead of this Under-17 Women's World Cup that India was supposed to host?
This is a very tragic moment for us. Actually, who are sufferers? Our students, our players, our coaches. The main last women's team means our Indian women's team. 2018-19 they can't play football because the 3 girls have got a COVID. They don't. That's why they don't come for Asian football. Now there are very good chance for World Cup to play for October, but FIFA's the ban is not good for FIFA. We have an autonomous body. Means All India Football Federation, they have a one article 26 who can as a secretary, as a president for 10 years. After 10 years, you are not as a member, as a president. But they violate the rules. Why? We have a very good stuff in India, but unfortunately the FIFA interfere. Our country, they have a football federation, talk to the Ministry of Sports or Prime Minister, then sort out the problem, and football is going on. You see a lot of people, they play football, they don't play for the country. This is a drawback for our players. How can they play for the country if they are not represent country? FIFA ban all the tournaments. Today we have a match in Kazakhstan. One team from Indian team, they play Asian Cup, Asian Club football tournament there. But unfortunately, they don't play football. So this is happened. This is drawback to our country. Why delay for the election? This is the main cause.
Okay, so because the centre has now moved the Supreme Court once again, the court has Mr. Sankla come to play an important role in as far as fixing all of the concerns related to AIFF is concerned, and all of these issues that have led to FIFA banning the Indian Federation of Football. How can the Supreme Court now fix all of these concerns that FIFA has raised? What is the urgent need of the hour that the apex body has to look after now?
Very simply put, the grouse of FIFA is third-party interference. Now, the third-party interference is the matter that is pending in the Honorable Supreme Court and the COA that has been appointed by the Honorable Supreme Court. So that is the grouse that FIFA has. Now, it has been stated time and again that the conduct of FIFA and the decision of FIFA has been very harsh, because the Honorable Supreme Court, under the democratic process and under the judicial process that we have, decided to interfere only because fair elections were not taking place. Elections were not taking place, and that was the unfairness of and the misuse of the system. Now, if the Honorable Supreme Court tomorrow, when it hears the matter, says that let the elections take place, let there be fair elections, we have already conducted and constituted the COA. There is no third-party interference in the specific term of it, because the COA has been appointed by the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, FIFA is saying that is the reason because of which that the games will not take place is not only unfair, but is also contrary to the fair democratic process. And therefore, tomorrow, when the matter is heard, if the Honorable Supreme Court comes to a decision that within 24 hours or 48 hours or within whatever time the Honorable Supreme Court states, let there be elections, the elected body will then represent, then I don't think there is any problem for FIFA revoking the ban and, as I said, that the games would go on.
Certainly, and I think that's more important because it is impacting and having direct consequences on the players. How can we reform the system is something that I'll come back to you, Mr. Barua. But Mr. Rao, let me understand from you the role of the COA. They had enough time to, conduct free and fair elections for which they were set up. Did they also not do exactly what was supposed to do as per FIFA rules in order to avoid this kind of harsh decision that has now ultimately impacted the football players and maligned Indian football globally?
Well, first of all, allow me to just express my view on the word harsh. I know that a lot of people have been using the word harsh, including, somebody like Bhaijung Bhutia. But let's get this straight. We as a nation, I mean, when it comes to following rules, we stretch ourselves in the sense that we want a lot of leeway. Now, when you are dealing with an international football federation or any international sports body or any international organization, sports or otherwise, when they follow rules and when they apply the rules, and we are at the receiving end, we find it pretty harsh. Number one, let's look at the facts. Did we keep our house in order? The answer is no. When the COA took over, it had ample time to get into the act. They didn't see the urgency of the matter. They didn't foresee the fact that an international sports body usually doesn't like the fact that it is not dealing with the elected members, it is dealing with a court appointed body. Now, this is true with so many other federations in the past. Now, this was a danger which was lurking around the corner, which the COA and others didn't see it. Now, this ban was pretty imminent, as I see it. So this just had to happen because you can't delay it, you can't play for time, and they should have acted and they could have acted. The very fact that when the state association said, look, we don't want this 50% representation of the players, we want it reduced to 25%, they should have put their foot down and said no immediately, not taking time. What they did, they issued another notification, another order saying that, okay, we are going to go with this 50% and stuff like that. Now, I don't want to go deeper into it because that will only create more confusion. The fact is that COA should have acted, could have acted, they didn't act on time, and that's why we are here. But I'm not absolving the AIFF of any kind of, the kind of acts of indiscipline, with rampant, what should I say? It's like pretty much in the face. They took things for granted, and they just enjoyed their, stay there. They extended stay without any fear of law. Now, this really shocks me. Now, these are educated people. They knew exactly what they were doing. And this is where I think instead of saying that FIFA is harsh, come down heavily on the office bearers, the suspended office bearers of the AIFF. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's get real now.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is this is a national embarrassment. Yes, it's an internationally, we have been shamed. Yes. But the reason now when people start asking us, we are a nation which is ranked more over 100 among the top ranked countries. We are not even the top 100. So the world is not really concerned because if we were to look at a country, say if you take a country, 100 countries don't play the game. If you just imagine that a country is ranked 112th in the world in this sport of, like cricket, would you even care? You wouldn't bother. That is what is happening. The world is not bothered whether India is banned or not. In the past, other countries and a lot of smaller countries have been banned because they didn't follow the diktats or the statute of the FIFA.
But I think,
any international sports body. This is not first time. This is not the last time.
Taking on
That's
from what
I'm
Mr.
trying
Rao
to say.
says, Mr. Barua, the fact that, at a time when all other sports personalities in our country are doing well, in the just concluded Commonwealth Games, we saw, the kind of performance the Indian athletes had. In cricket, we are performing well. Name any sport and our sports personalities are actually, doing all it takes to bring laurels to the country. So similarly, even though we're not globally well placed in football, but the fact that something that could have been avoided, something in which the players have been directly impacted by, not getting to now represent the country at international competition. How do you look at this decision now, being used as an opportunity by AIFF to revamp the entire system so that this doesn't happen in future? You've been someone who's been, part of the system. You've seen it closely. What do you think are some of these roadblocks that need to be immediately addressed?
First, the interfere with Prime Minister. Our Prime Minister interfered with the FIFA delegation. Because just I say something to country. We have lot in population wise. We are second in world. Okay, we have a very players in grassroots. We have a lot of players. What about the players? What about the how can they emerge? We have only one ISL. एक ISL खेलते हैं we play for ISL team. तो ISL में 8 teams can play and nobody can relegate. But in India we have a lot of tournaments. Bardoli Cup, DCM, Durand, then Federation Cup. All tournaments are vanished. Only we play ISL League, And there are so many tournaments under 16, under 19, under 23, 24, and Santosh Trophy. Slowly, all are vanished.
तो परेशानियां क्या है मिस्टर बरुआ? सिस्टम में क्या दिक्कत है?
बहुत सारी परेशानी है. सबसे बड़ी परेशानी, आज का दिन हमारे लिए बहुत खराब दिन है. आज के दिन 1980 में मोहन बगान का मैच चल रहा था ईडन गार्डन में, 16 लोग मरे थे ईडन गार्डन के अंदर. आज के दिन ने फीफा ने बैन किया. ये हमारे लिए बहुत बुरा हुआ. हमारे पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एकदम नहीं है फुटबॉल के लिए. हमारे पास, हम बोलते हैं कि वी आर 124 फीफा में 217 कंट्री के अंदर वो आर 134, तो हम 124. इससे हमें क्या होगा? हम डोंट गो फॉर रैंकिंग. अभी फुटबॉल का क्या करना है उसके लिए कुछ भी नहीं हो पा रहा. हम नो जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटी, नो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, नो ग्राउंड. सब मैं दाद देना चाहता हूँ प्राइम मिनिस्टर को, जिन्होंने 2017 में वर्ल्ड कप कराया है. यहाँ पर इंडिया के अंदर वर्ल्ड कप कराया, नेहरू स्टेडियम में वर्ल्ड कप कराया. 207 कंट्री ने देखा इंडिया का कि इंडिया में फुटबॉल आस्ते आस्ते आ रहा है. जब इंडिया के अंदर फुटबॉल आ रहा है तो दिस इज़ वेरी गुड हब फॉर मार्केटिंग. तो लोग सब इंडिया में आने लगे. जब इंडिया में आने लगे तो अभी वर्ल्ड कप होने लगा 2017 में. हमने वुमेंस वर्ल्ड कप वो एक्सटेंड होने के बाद अभी होना है 2022 में. तो उसके लिए अभी फीफा ने बैन कर दिया है. अगर फुटबॉल अच्छा होगा तो इंडिया का नाम होगा, बच्चे फुटबॉल खेलेंगे. इतना अच्छे स्टेडियम बनाया है, वहाँ पर कौन देखने जाएगा? बच्चे जो फुटबॉल खेल रहे हैं, माँ बाप जो स्टेडियम में फुटबॉल देखना चाहते हैं, वहाँ कोई भी नहीं जाएगा. तो ये नहीं होना चाहिए. मैं दरख्वास्त करना चाहता हूँ हमारे स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर साहब को, प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब को. उन्होंने इतना अच्छा कदम उठाया कि वर्ल्ड कप फीफा यहाँ पर करा रहे हैं, तो वो ये होना चाहिए फुटबॉल.
But I think if the rot lies in the system, that needs to be fixed by the administration. It's a collective effort by all those involved in the system. Mr. Sankla, just 2 months into the World Cup, and an important point that Mr. Barua was making, to promote a sport that is, not as much played and as much enjoyed in our country, such tournaments are the need of the hour, and this is something that would have helped players, that would have helped the football lovers in the country. Now that's not happening. We still have 2 months to go. Is there anything that can be done by the court to, fix all those concerns that FIFA has raised to actually ensure that we could host the Women's World Cup, Under 17 Women's World Cup in October, or are we out of contention now?
We're very much there. And let me just quickly answer 2 points. One, I empathize with my sportsman friend here. I can understand his pain. And your answer lies to what was also said by my journalist friend, and deference to him. What I do understand with my limited research is that this is the first time in 85 years that AIFF has been suspended by FIFA. I could be wrong. Mr. Rao has said that it has been done to smaller countries. My search says that it has been done for the first time in 85 years. I, of course, would love to be corrected. The second thing I would like to say is that though there was interference of the Honorable Supreme Court, but the suspension did not come immediately thereafter. There was no ban that came immediately thereafter, because there was a joint FIFA and Asian Football Confederation mission that had come to India. And now let us look at the rot in the system that has been said as far as the Honorable Supreme Court and its interference is concerned. He has just said that there has been a lot of delays on our side as well. I don't really see that when I look at the timeline, and I do understand that the foreigners might want it to be faster. But as I look at the timeline, let me just understand what happened. On June 21st, the first round between FIFA and AFC took place. Everything went well. On June 23rd, 3 days thereafter, they came up with a deadline. On July 13th, the deadline was adhered to. The first draft of the constitution was circulated. Now, on July 18th, AIFF said that we are unhappy with the draft constitution. Please rectify it. And Mr. Barua was right. Mr. Ghosh was right. It was in terms of the number of eminent sports persons that had to be included. The Honorable Supreme Court on July 21st, not too late, endorsed the need. And July 26th, in terms of the endorsement, AIFF said that 25% eminent players representation should be there, not 50% as has been stated. July 28th, the Honorable Supreme Court again took the matter on board. August 3rd, there was another meeting. Importantly, on August 5, Supreme Court approved the COA timeline. Now, please understand how fast the matter is going. The elections were to be concluded. The dates were given. on August 10, COA filed a contempt petition against Mr. Praful Patel, saying that he was interfering with the process. On August 8, the Honorable Supreme Court again warned that in exercise of its authority, there should be no wrongdoing that should take place. Now, only because AIFF was not happy with the eminent personalities in the sport, the 50% versus 25%, this ban came into being in the garb, saying that there has been an interference by a third party. I think that is the reason why I'm saying this is very harsh. Because if this was really the reason, then the ban should have come much sooner, and not after there was a joint sitting and a report that was filed, and the report was not challenged. There was no question pertaining to that. The matter is already in the Honorable Supreme Court. So therefore, now to suddenly ban it because there is some kind of discussion that is going on versus 25%, 50%, this sounds harsh, it sounds onerous, it sounds arbitrary, and unfortunately, it also sounds as if it is my way or the highway, which should never be.
Okay, so whether it's a harsh decision or not, there can be varying opinions and varying perspectives on how people look at it. But Mr. Rao, not just football, correct me if I'm wrong, there are several sporting federations in India that in the past have run into trouble with international organizations. As someone who's been covering Indian sports and our representation at global events, what are the kind of problems that you see that lead us to, apart from one important point that you already mentioned, that we take rules for granted and we stretch it too far. But besides that, what are the important issues that lead us to such run-ins with international organizations?
Before I answer that, let me just, complete that thing that my fellow panelist had raised.
Sure.
I had made a very, I had made a passing reference to some of the other countries facing certain kind of suspensions. Let me add the names of Nigeria, Pakistan, Trinidad and Tobago, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. These are the countries, they have already been suspended by FIFA in the past. And one more thing, my friend had said about, why this action was not taken. As per the timeline, on the 6th of August, FIFA did threaten to suspend AIFF and strip India of its rights to host the Under-17 Women's FIFA World Cup, citing third-party influence. This was already done 10 days ago. And thereafter, of course, there were these assurances from COA. The very following day, the COA had said, and now here we are. Okay, now I'll put that topic to rest. Now, to answer your questions, what is it that the international sports bodies can do? Now, like Anadi Barua sir, he just mentioned that, he'll appeal to the sports minister, to the PM and stuff. Let me tell you, the international sports bodies will not listen to your Indian courts in a hurry. They will not listen to any appeal by eminent people, including the Prime Minister. It is not that they feel that they're above everything else. You have the right to go to CAS, which is called the Court of arbitration. That is where you can drag an international sports body to. But here, I think the point is that we broke the rules in the first place, which was the very fact that FIFA has been a little so-called harsh with us. That stands justified because of the kind of feet dragging which we did. Now, what international sports bodies can normally do? Number one, what they have done here is they don't recognize anyone, any court-appointed body when it is dealing with an elected, national sports federation. This is the first thing. So this has been the bane of this whole issue. Like my colleague very rightly said, their major problem is COA. That is the third party. They are not naming it, but of course, that is what is written in their rules. So they are just using that third party influence. But read it as the influence of the committee of administrators. Yeah. But what all they can do, they can make life miserable. They can straight away say no participation for you from now on. Whatever scholarships and a lot of these, like the IOC has these plans where they invite your coaches, your prominent players, administrators, they coach them, they pay them. So these are all the activities which they do on the sidelines. Indians won't be invited for any of those. So, so the international body, number one is participation. But At the same time, what Anadi said that he said that there are a lot of events which take place that will be hindered and all. No, any domestic event, FIFA is not directly involved. It has no say. So you can continue to have your leagues, your like Durand Cup and all the tournaments which he said they all can continue without this ban having any impact on it. That's
Absolutely.
one.
So the international representation
body-
is something that is going to be affected, Mr. Barua. I'll take one last comment from you because time is running out. What needs to be done immediately now? Because the priority is to ensure that players who worked so hard for the upcoming World Cup, they need to be, given a fair chance to represent the country and play. What is it that needs to be immediately done so that this ban can be revoked?
Is my
by FIFA?
opinion immediately better FIFA think over this happen the Indian football Indian scenario and talk to our people third party means they just release for FIFA World Cup is my opinion. That's why I say yes.
Okay, but what's important is that this ban by FIFA has caused embarrassment to the Indian Football Federation, and this is something that is a matter of concern. As all our panelists were suggesting, although the matter is in the court, but there are rules that have been taken for granted that the Indian Football Federation has not followed, and now the house has to be fixed in order. So if we want FIFA to revoke this ban and our players be given a fair opportunity to represent the country at all global events, particularly the upcoming one, the Under-17 Women's World Cup that India was supposed to host. So let's see how things pan out in the Supreme Court tomorrow, where the matter is listed, and beyond that as well, whether this ban can be revoked and India will be allowed to play under FIFA or not. So that is something that we'll all have to wait and watch. For now, I'll have to wind up the discussion. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the program, sharing your thoughts, your views with us on the subject. Mr. Barua, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming to the studio and joining us on the discussion. Absolute pleasure to have you on this edition of Perspective. So that's it from us on the program. Thank you very much, viewers, for your time as well. I'll see you same time tomorrow now with another topic and a different set of panelists. Until then, take care of yourselves and keep watching Sunset TV.